Christmas blues. Join me, Gene Bailey, for Blues Time in the City this weekend before Christmas, right here.
This is comedian Janelle Banks, and you are listening to KUAW, Kansas City.
Good afternoon and welcome once again to Wave Your Grades. It's KUAW.org. We emanate from the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center right here in Kansas City, Missouri. KUAW stands for Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. The W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center has been helping our young people in science, technology, engineering, and math, even the social studies, helping young people from the inner core to matriculate successfully at whatever grade level. And Louis George Walker is founder of KUAW.org, president of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, giving Stutes for Boots, American students striving for excellence in honor of our troops, an opportunity every Saturday from 1 until 2 p.m. to present Wave Your Grades. The suggestion there is for our young people to understand it is wonderful when troops return home to wave the flag. But if you really want to show them that you respect and honor them, wave your grades, wave your community service, wave your leadership, wave your concern about your parents, about your community. So this is called Wave Your Grades. Today, Saturday, December 19th, is a very, very special program because we have Brother Eric Sanders as a very special guest. And before the program, as we discussed what we might talk about, looking at the little bit I know about Eric Sanders, we can do the first hour and a half or two about Eric Sanders. Then we can do the next couple of hours about your social background and civic background. We'll do 3 or 4 hours about your military experience, and then we'll finally get into the show. But let me just say, on a sincere note, for those of you who are listening, each week we do suggest to you, follow the science, follow the protocols, take care of yourself and your families. We need you. And now, again, on a serious note, welcome Eric Sanders to Wave Your Grades.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Cowboy. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak and giving you a point of view from a young guy who grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, that went to Greenwood and Dig Homes and went to Central and Southwest High School. I was born and raised in this city. I love this city. I respect this city. And I'm here to contribute as much as I can to make this city better for everyone else that lives here.
Praise God. Thank you so very, very much. And as a matter of fact, Brother Walker, was that last Saturday we did the tribute to Bush, or Saturday before last? But yes, very recently, Coach Bush.
Okay.
Central High School.
Oh, yeah, I remember Coach Bush.
Yes,
Definitely.
sir.
Yes.
So he recently, unfortunately, passed away, and the very next week, his wife passed away.
Wow.
And we did a tribute to Bush Central. So that's part of your background. Anything that stands out as far as Kansas City is concerned that you think about as a young black man having grown up in Kansas City, Missouri?
Growing up in Kansas City, I see a lot of limited opportunities. I didn't see too much of generational wealth for black people here. And I think that that's something that we need to focus on, because we're like forced to be consumers, and that's upsetting to me. And I think black people are beautiful, they're creative, but at the same time, we have to understand that it's powers in place to keep us as consumers. It's time for us to break away from those chains and be owners of businesses and establishments so we can bring the wealth up in our community.
That is absolutely key. As a matter of fact, back in the day during the civil rights movement, I shared with you, I think maybe when we first met, and maybe I did not, I'm 78 years old. So when I think about the civil rights movement back in the 60s, you are absolutely right. Rather than being self-determining, they played on our need to perpetuate a system that would allow us to make sure that the rich got richer, and in their quote benevolence unquote, allowing us an opportunity to spend more money with them.
Exactly. The whole system is designed like drugs. I give you an opportunity. I'm just put it on the table. You know why drugs was placed into our community? To generate wealth. At the same times, you have these young black men who want to generate wealth, but they don't have the resources. And the system will allow them to build that. So what they do is they sell dope to generate wealth. But at the same time of this horrible justice system, we incarcerate large groups of African Americans because of the crack epidemic. But at the same time, when drugs now with the prescribed medication that's coming out now, and you have a lot of white folks that's getting addicted to these drugs, that's what they want to do now. Instead of making them criminals, they want to treat them.
Now, when I think about the number of areas where you not only have expertise, but what is impressive to me, to us, is your passion about those things that you address. One of the things that we do, the name of the program, Wave Your Grades, American Students Striving for Excellence in Honor of Our Troops, is talk about what this society owes to those who serve, those who have served. You are a black male veteran. To what degree do those of us who, by the way, I am a civilian, who are civilians, show our respect, and to what degree should we?
I feel that this country really don't treat vets the way they should. Mm-hmm. You have so many homeless vets that's out there that's struggling. I believe, this is my opinion, even the private sector don't honor vets like they should. They give you 10%, 5% disability when you go to a store to purchase something. That just covers tax. That's it.
Come on.
But when it comes down to it is, a vet should not be homeless in this country at all. We have fought so many countless wars. And the reason why we fight these wars is because we have so many enemies that cannot stand the United States. But at the same time, we had to build up our military forces to protect us. And we go off and have these young men and women from these middle-class families and lower-class families. Yes. And they go out here and they fight these wars. They come back with no legs, no arms. Some of them suffer from PTSD. Some of them lose their vision. Some of them come back burnt up. But at the same time, said this country embracing them, hugging them, and saying, look, we're going to make opportunities for you. And then the person on the bottom of the totem pole is black vets. They're the one that's really cast aside. They go off and they look, and what they want to do is we shouldn't play each other against one another. I agree with that. But at the same time, these systems have put in place, black vets are totally overlooked.
Let me also ask of you that you give our listening audience contact information, who you are, what you are currently doing, and how we can make sure we contact you for your services or to join your cause.
I have a lot of affiliations. So I'm the vice president of NAGA, National African American Gun Association. I'm out to make sure black people are trained, educated, and apply safety when they use firearms. I'm tired of seeing a large segment of black women that's victims. They're victim to intimate partner violence, to rape, sex trafficking, homicide, and then you have a lot of black women that have bodies that's coming up missing. No heart. They have no hearts, no liver, no kidneys because they're harvesting their organs and selling them on the black market. We have a lot of issues relating to our black women. We're not, and I believe that we arm our black women with weapons. I mean, with a firearm, and you educate them and you train them and you apply that safety factor to it. These women will be able to protect themselves. That's one thing I want to focus on is empowering black women.
And contact information, please.
Yes, kcnaga.com.
All right, spell that out.
KCNAAGACO.
All right. Now, I would contact kcnaga.com.
Correct.
If, for instance, I was holding a single event to introduce Eric Sanders. Now, is there a course of study? Is there something that, and by the way, you mentioned the black women, but I'm sure black men could also avail themselves of your service.
Oh, yes. Black men are also invited.
So is it a course, a seminar, a presentation? How does it go?
What we do is we do CCW classes, also pistol classes. We do women shoots. We do family shoots. We do beginner shoots. We also do level 2, 3, 4, and advanced shoots for people who's interested in firearms. We support law enforcement. We're here to empower African Americans and educate them on safety, education, and firearms, and how they can enjoy them, and at the same time take the responsibility of protecting themselves in their home.
Yes, sir. And when you look at the landscape today in 2020, I had the occasion on an earlier interview with somebody to talk about being victimized by a perfect storm. And what I mean by a perfect storm is we have a pandemic that has been visited upon us at the same time that we have divisiveness in politics, at the same time that we have systemic racism in America. You've got all of these things visited upon us at once. Now, therefore, when a black male comes along and advocates in behalf of law enforcement and gun safety, how are you received in the black community generally?
Personally, I don't think that we have a relationship at all. It's sad that I think that NAGA and the police department needs to come together. I was volunteer my services to go to police academies and educate cadets about how you have a large segment of African Americans that are gun owners, law-abiding citizens, and I would educate them and try to overcome and override the images that's been placed in their head by media for so long. Historically, the media have never gave us a positive image related to firearms. And I would try to overcome that image by sitting down with them, telling them that we had to go through a federal FBI background check to even have this permit. And you had to go through training for this permit.
Yes, sir.
And that we're not here to hurt anyone. We're just here to protect ourselves and our loved ones. And that whenever you run to someone that have their carry concealed permit, you should treat them like they are somebody there to assist you or to help you if you get in trouble or if you by yourself as a law enforcement officer.
This is Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org. My name is Carl Boyd. Wave Your Grades comes to you every Saturday, 1 until 2 p.m., KUAW.org. Pleased to have as our very special guest, veteran Eric Sanders and handgun safety instructor. And as you reach out, do you find that there is a particular age group and or, by the way, females versus males who are more receptive to your message than others?
I think women are more humble when it relates to firearms. Men have egos and tend to want to shy away and shoot guns by themselves, and they don't want to be affiliated with a gun club. But women are eager to come in and, hey, look, teach me how to use this firearm.
Yes, sir.
I want to learn. I want to learn how to protect myself and my children, because you have a lot of single women out here.
Yes, sir.
And they have young ones. And right there at the beginning, firearms are there. That's the equalizer.
Okay.
If somebody do a home invasion on this young woman with 3 kids, it's going to take 9 to 12 to 15 minutes for the police to get there. By the time they get there, they're pretty much drawing a tape around her body and her children.
My God.
So what we have to do is we have to take the responsibility of our own safety. And what we need to do is we need to educate our women and teach them what safety is, real safety of firearms.
Yes, sir.
We need to teach them the training aspect of it and the education of it. We need to teach them how to clean them, how to maintain them, and not be stuck in the mindset to just have one gun.
Okay.
You know, you might want to have your carry concealed firearm, and then you have one you go to the range with.
Now, Eric Sanders, our very special guest, in the next 3 minutes or so, we'll ask for contact information as we go on. I suspect that there will be many people who will want to contact you. Let me tell you what I suspect you're up against on an ongoing basis. Because of, unfortunately, a proliferation of violence that seems to visit the community where I grew up. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the Ida B. Wells housing projects. And my young, let's put it this way, softball team members were in Stateway Gardens and Robert Taylor Homes and a few places on the south side. And in my community of educators and Christian leaders and all of that, you say the word gun, and right away there's a negative response. Oh, I don't want to talk about guns. I don't want to talk about weapons. Please help them. What do you say to these folks?
One of the things I try to tell people is that firearms are weapons. And what happens is gun don't kill people. People kill people.
Yes.
All they are is a weapon. It's like in New York, this guy in a white van ran down 11 civilians.
Yes, sir.
And killed them.
Okay.
You don't see them trying to ban
Vans or
white vans.
Pickup trucks.
They're not going to do that because it's easier to go after firearms. One of the problems we have in this society, we have mental illness. We don't have a mental illness crisis center in this country. When I was in Singapore, they have a mental illness center that address people that's at crisis. You have a lot of people that's reaching out, crying out, and trying to get some type of mental help. But guess what? The other day, it was a black man who had a knife in his hand, and the police get there. Instead of them calling a psychologist there to help this man because he's going through a crisis, they draw their weapons out and they kill this man.
Yes, sir.
And this is happening every day in this country.
My Lord, I don't know if you're familiar with Joanna Farmer, but Joanna Farmer is a local young lady who is with something called the Stability Network, and they are indeed addressing mental health in the black community because we don't do that enough. Sanders has his way and has a large enough audience to understand not only do we stand to save that individual who has the knife, but their children and the spread of all those who are in contact with them.
Correct. And I tell people this all the time. African Americans suffer from generational PTSD.
Come on.
From slavery to Jim Crow policies to where we couldn't own a patent, we couldn't own businesses, we couldn't live in certain districts. We had horrible education for a long time. And we was lynched, we was beaten, we was murdered. I was sitting there reading a book the other day about Colfax, Louisiana, where they had an election and they didn't want to lose, so they turned around and they tried to tamper with the sheets, the election sheets. So a group of African Americans and a couple freedmen got together and they took a stand. These guys got them into a building, 300 to 400 something white males, and they told them, look, if you just lay down your arms, we won't do nothing to you. And they end up killing 150 civilians.
My God.
And you never hear about this.
No, sir. No,
There's
sir.
so many hidden secrets in this country when it relates to history. We refuse to acknowledge history because you learn something from history. Look at Chicago. Chicago got one of the highest crime rates there is. But guess what? Illinois got the strictest gun laws
Yes, sir.
in this country. Gun control in Chicago is not working at all. So what else can we do? We maybe need to create jobs and institutions to where they reach back to young men and women of color and get them opportunities, get them decent education.
Yes, sir. This is Wave Your Grades, KUAW.org. My name is Carl Boyd, very special guest Eric Sanders. And once again, please, Brother Sanders, contact information so that if I wanted you to do a single seminar or if I wanted someone to take classes, how do we contact Eric Sanders?
You can contact me by my number. My number is 816-935-3038. Also, you can contact NAAGA, KCNAAGA.com. And what you can do is get in touch with the organization, and we'll sit there and we'll set you up to get your CCW. You might not want to get your CCW, so what we'll do is we'll set you up with a pistol class to introduce you to firearms correctly.
Now, when you say to those who are listening, when you say to us, you may not want to get your CTW, what is Eric Sanders' advice?
What my advice is for you to take a pistol class first so you can get comfortable with firearms, because a lot of times people have watched television and media have always portrayed African Americans and firearms in a negative light. They have never gave us love. So what we have to do here is that we have to reach out to our community and show these men and women, hey, look, all a firearm is a weapon. That's it. It can be used, and it can be used for good, and it can be used for bad. And there's so many organizations out there that's reaching out to other communities. They have all kind of shoots. They have pigeon shoots. They have 3-gun competition. The white community really embrace and enjoy their Second Amendment rights relating to firearms. We're the only group now, we're starting to open up doors now relating to firearms.
Now, this is interesting to me. And by the way, before I ask the next question or two, there may very well be some things that I won't broach. So let me offer this time to you things that you would not want to get to the parking lot and say, wow, I should have said this. What are some of the things that you have come to let us know that are important to us?
You know, to me, what's important right now is for us to stand up and to embrace our Second Amendment rights as gun owners. We need to also allow the new administration that's coming in effect to where they already talking about gun control. And if you look at the history, you look at the geographics, you look at Washington, D.C., you look at New York, you look at Chicago, gun control do not work. You have to find another solution to correct these problems. You refuse to. It's like going back into the Roman days where they had a sewer issue, they had a rodent issue, they had all kind of disease and sickness. And what they did was, instead of address it, they go off and build arenas for gladiators. And it's the same basic principle now. You have all these sports teams, you got the NFL and all these sports teams, and what they do is they take you off what's really important. Your attention should be focused on. You should be trying to upgrade your community. You should be trying to instill values in your children, build character. But it's hard to do that because you look at our government, you look at our politicians, they'll sit to you in your face and lie to you.
Now, this is interesting to me, and I think that it is possible that my wife is listening, and you will be gratified to know that I have at least 7 listeners, unless my wife is washing her hair. Then it's down to 6. But if my wife is listening, my wife would admonish me to be honest in the interview. And I mentioned my age. I work with a group of homeless young people, and I have a session to which I refer as Please Teach Me You. at my age, I want to learn about a younger generation. To Eric Sanders, who teaches handgun safety and has a particular concern about the black community, I would ask you to teach me in this way, and this is what I meant when I said when I mentioned my wife being honest. I have been one of those septuagenarians. I'm 78 years old, who is concerned about gun control. And if you came to me and mentioned guns, you would hear it come out of my mouth. Yeah, we need gun control. So what we need is for Eric Sanders to teach us the difference between this stereotypical gun control and gun safety.
The difference in gun control is that what they do is they tell you what type of firearms that you're allowed to have.
Okay.
At the same time, they take away your freedoms. You have to understand, whenever the government went to step in with firearms, look what happened in Germany. The first thing when Hitler got in charge, he confiscated the firearms from the Jewish community.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they killed 12 million Jews. You have to understand, you don't want your government to step in and regulate what type of firearms you have. That's your freedom. That's why the Constitution is written to where your Second Amendment rights to where you can bear arms. You should be allowed to, especially if you pass a federal background check, you're a law-abiding citizen, and you're responsible with your firearm. The government shouldn't have no say-so on what type of firearm you have. And then when you have gun safety is, to me, is that everyone that owns a firearm, they need to take a class. And I'm talking about real gun safety. I'm talking about understanding your target, what's in front of it, keeping your finger off the trigger, point your gun in a safe direction, never try to catch a falling weapon. Those type of things are important. And before I tell anyone, before you purchase a firearm, you need to take a pistol class or a CCW class and understand what really safety is, because we have a lot of people out here, young people, who get a hold of these firearms and don't have a clue. I run into them to where they don't even clean them. I went off, this guy asked me to clean his firearm.
What?
His firearm have not been cleaned, and he's owned it for 15 years. He's owned this gun for 15 years. I probably shot the gun at least once or twice a month. When I saw that gun, it was so horrible. And it's to the point to where these people need to be educated about firearms.
He would have shot himself in the elbow when he's taking it. But here we are, Eric Sanders. Today is Saturday, December 19th in Kansas City, Missouri. Saturday is the day before my wife and I have a Zoom Sunday school class at Friendship Baptist Church. And if all of the people of my era and the people I go to church with heard me say the letters NRA, almost in the black community, almost 87% would have a negative response. So when Eric Sanders is teaching us, and it would be interesting to me, by the way, what you come up against on an ongoing basis when you introduce gun safety in the way that you do. What does that mean to you? What do those initials, National Rifle Association, the NRA, mean to Eric Sanders?
At my church, myself and Jeff Maples, we got together and we sat in and watched. We sat in the CCW class, and the instructor wasn't really informative. It was okay, but he could have provided more information. At that time, Jeff and myself got together, and we went through the NRA instructor course. And then at that time, we decided to go in business and to educate and teach people. And then maybe a year later, Jeff said, "Hey, Eric, you know what? Kansas City needs a gun club." So what we did was we searched around and we found that NAGA, NAAGA, was an upcoming gun club where African Americans can go to and learn what safety, education, training, and firearm.
Sir.
So what we did was we started this 3 years ago. We had like maybe 15, 20 people. Now we're close to 100. And we're growing rapidly. And that it turned out we are the first African-American gun club in Kansas City ever.
Yes, sir.
Ever. And that I'm proud of that because we stepped outside the norm And what we did was we bring change. NAGA's there to give African Americans that platform and that know-how with firearms, where the NRA for a long time, they represented older white men. But NAGA, 60% of NAGA is ran by women. That's a large percentage.
Yes, sir.
And the reason why I think so is because a lot of men have egos and they don't believe they need to be associated with some, or affiliated with some type of organization like ourselves. But I tell people we have so much fun. We have access to 150 acres of land. We have a indoor gun range where we can do lateral and forward and reverse movements. We can, because a lot of people are lost when it comes down to firearms. They think going to a gun range and shooting at targets back and forth from 20 to 50 to 100 yards is like doing something. That's not doing nothing. If you can't move and shoot a target, then why are you even having a firearm?
Okay. And by the way, for those of you who are listening at KUAW.org, this is Wave Your Grades. Our very, very special guest this afternoon, Brother Eric Sanders. My name is Carl Boyd. This afternoon's program is indeed focusing on handgun safety as well as civil rights and Black American history because they go hand in hand. They're very important. And Brother Eric Sanders, who does indeed teach handgun safety, you are negotiating extremes. One extreme is people who feel like, oh yeah, ain't nobody gonna mess with me because I'm always packing, kind of that mentality you were talking about that many males have of let somebody do something and I'll go off. And you have this picture of young black males holding the gun to the side and running down the street from some movie they saw somewhere. That extreme. And the other extreme is, oh no, don't have any guns around here. How do you negotiate those extremes for us?
What I'm saying to you, I'm selling you a product of our class. And what we do is we teach you the justification of deadly force. If you don't understand the jam elements, jeopardy, ability, and means, then you shouldn't own a firearm. Because if you go off and use that firearm, that prosecutor, that judge, and those juries will convict you for murder.
Yes, sir.
What you have to do is come to a class like my class that I push out. I push out how to educate you how to use that firearm. I teach you the jam elements, jeopardy, ability, means. You have to understand that. If you understand that, I guarantee you 100% you're never going to get convicted if you use deadly force the proper way to where somebody threatened your life, somebody threatened to kill you, and you use that the correct way, you will not see one day in jail. But at the same time, you need to be educated on the laws, on what you can and cannot do. You got to understand what stand your ground is. You got to understand your limitations when relating to firearms. You can't just go off and pick up a firearm and say, well, the state of Missouri says that I can carry concealed firearm. You know what? That prosecutor, that judge, and those jurors are going to convict you all day long. You need to be trained. You need to have some type of education, taught you how to use that weapon and when to use that weapon when your life is threatened. When immediate danger is right there in front of you, and this person is telling you they're going to take your life, if you don't understand the jam elements, you will be going to jail. So you need to make sure you get trained and educated about firearms and carry concealment.
This is the voice of Eric Sanders. We're learning about gun safety, gun training. I am going to ask Brother Louis George Walker, founder of KUAW.org, to join right in when you want to, and ask you to, as we do each Saturday, take the microphone and remind our listeners how they can access KUAW.org, and if you want to, some of what they're missing if they're not listening in. This is Louis George Walker, our founder.
Good afternoon. Yes, you're listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station right here in Kansas City, Missouri. You can listen to us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Periscope. You can also listen to the audio-only broadcast on the TuneIn app or at www.kuaw.org. Also, if you'd like to join this conversation about gun ownership and gun rights, give us a call at 816-599-6893. That's 816-599-6893. Or you can post your questions or comments on our Facebook page at KUAW-radio. So go to those so that we can get in touch with you. And tune in every Saturday for this wonderful hour that we have with Waive Your Grades.
Thank you so much, Louis George Walker. And as I say, once again, any questions and or comments you have, please jump right in. This is a very important conversation. It is an important conversation, not simply because of gun safety. That is true for time immemorial, but in terms of the particular time that we live in, how does Eric Saunders feel when you have had a history in Kansas City, Missouri, and we are looking at record-breaking numbers in our community of violent crime and, unfortunately, homicide?
Do you really believe removing guns off the streets is going to make a difference? We have social illnesses in our community. We have a community that suffered from PTSD.
Yes, sir.
We refuse to look at, honestly, we need to address reparations and restitution in this country. The UN did a study. They spent $23 million. It came out in 2017 in February. The UN stated to America, the only way you can correct the illnesses in the minority communities relating to African Americans if they pay restitution and reparation. Restitution means you correct those systems that's been systemically oppressing African Americans for a long time. Reparations is you have to pay a debt that you owe. You had free labor for 250 years. You had Jim Crow policies. You had states that wouldn't allow blacks to have patents, own property. You put them in low-income areas, ghettos, inner cities. You allowed these practices to happen, and the federal government didn't protect American civilians. They didn't protect us at all. So until you pay that debt, you're going to still have these problems in our communities. The only way we can come out of this is that they pay restitution, reparation, and what they do is they put in place a system to where these people don't go off and buy Cadillacs or buy drugs with this money. This money's used to better their lifestyle.
Yes, sir.
And give their children maybe even free education.
Without a
even
doubt.
Free college.
Yes, sir.
Secondary education. That's the only way we're going to cure these illnesses. It's not going to happen removing guns off the streets. You're dealing with systemic racism. You're dealing with PTSD, trauma, generational, passed down through slavery, through being a group of people that have been oppressed for so long. You cannot take guns off and say, look, we're going to eliminate all gun violence in this country.
Now, with Eric Saunders helping us to understand from an historical perspective, from a sociological perspective, and by the way, very importantly, from a psychological perspective, what we are dealing with, here is how you and I met at DFW 8100 in Grandview. With my being a civilian, I have said and continue to say that we owe a debt of gratitude to those who have served, but gratitude means nothing if it doesn't manifest in behavior. Eric Saunders has a passion as it relates to black history in the United States of America, but I'm hearing you speak, in fact, for all veterans, whatever nationality, to be able to come home to a more unified, peaceful society. When you are talking with veterans, when you talked about the Veterans Administration, services for veterans, I hear what Eric Saunders is saying. What are your fellow veterans saying? By the way, male and female, as well as the different nationalities.
What they're saying is we need our countries to stop fighting these needless wars. Every time we turn around, we find a war and we losing so many human lives, and these people are coming back with no limbs. They're coming back with PTSD, and then you're wondering why. You're wondering why that you have so many homeless vets out here. And then you got to go off and try to justify and create these little small shelters and put these guys in here. But if you keep fighting these needless wars and you sacrificing lower middle class and lower middle class, rich people don't fight wars. Rich people don't go out here and serve their country. They don't do it. They sit back here and they generate their wealth, where the middle class on down are the ones who's fighting these battles and making the biggest sacrifice in this country. You have to understand, so many countries dislike this country. They cannot stand us at all. And we have to spend money on our military to protect ourselves, but at the same time, respect and honor the ones that make that sacrifice.
Yes, sir. And let me tell you what is so important to me about what you are saying there. Because of the nature of the program, Waive Your Grades, in honor of those who serve and those who have served, there are some who think that the program therefore advocates war when you're advocating for warriors. Nothing could be further from the truth. And to have someone who is so knowledgeable about this issue of violence and how to prevent it, like Eric Saunders, help us to understand that serving doesn't mean that you want to just go to war. We owe you peace in the future and in the community you come back to serve. I am getting from Eric Saunders that those who would join your gun club, those who would receive training from you, are not just getting technique, but they're also getting a philosophy of what protection really means.
Exactly. I totally agree. And it's a human right for you to be able to protect yourself. You know, God didn't allow you to wake up each day where you can sit here and be a victim. You're a victim because you're not taking the responsibility in your own hands.
My God.
And saying that, hey, look, I'm going to go out here and purchase me a firearm, and I'm going to go to a legit instructor who's going to cover all aspects of protection for me so I can defend myself whenever that devil presents itself. I'm able to deal with it. But at the same time, you have to understand that all that weapon is for you to protect yourself and loved ones, and that's it. And that's it. And you can't use it for anything else.
Ooh, go ahead.
And you have to educate yourself with firearms. I built firearms. I do modifications to firearms legally. And I make sure that I clean my weapon. I make sure my weapon's always taken care of and maintained. And we teach all of that. We teach the whole entire complete cup about how to be a responsible gun owner in this country.
I want to go to MOW and take you back to JAM. Because you go to court, they look for motive, opportunity, and weapon. And you can get convicted based upon that. What is more important before you get there is JAM. Take us through that again, Brother Eric Sanders.
JAM is Jeopardy, Ability, Means. Jeopardy means the threat. Ability means the distance on how close this person is to you, and means or what he gonna use, what type of weapon is he, his skill set, is he a 7th degree black belt or whatever. And what you have to do is you have to make sure these in the jam in Jeopardy, ability means it have to be 100% in each category. If it's 100% in each category, then it's justified for you to use deadly force. But you got to remember, you have to be threatened, not just a verbal threat, but you have to be immediate, dangerous, there to deal with that would take you out. So you got to be ready to defend yourself and your loved ones. If you're not trained and you're not educated relating to that factor, then you will find yourself in prison. When it comes down to it is you have jurors, prosecutor, and a judge that's going to sit back and they're going to listen to everything that comes out of your mouth. And if you don't know what you're doing with a firearm, you will go to jail. So what I'm telling you now, you might need to take a class like my class. I have an attorney, Kevin Jamison, that backs me on this. I sit down with him, conversate him on a regular basis. He educates me about the laws, the new laws. And what I do is I pass that knowledge to my students in my class. This is a strong gun advocate. Kevin Jamison is a strong gun advocate, and he's focused on self-defense trials. So you have to understand this. This guy knows his stuff. He's been practicing law 30 to 40 years. So what I'm saying to you is that if you don't understand the law, you shouldn't have a firearm because you're going to mess around and find yourself in prison.
Thank you so much for that. And let me find out, Eric Saunders, age groups, who can legally be a part of your class. And secondly, how do you prepare those who are younger through your training, or are you familiar with another trainer who speaks to our young people?
We prefer someone 21 and older because I want somebody mature enough to understand, so where they can listen, they can understand and see the point of view what we're trying to get across to them. I don't want nobody with an ego. You got to be a law-abiding citizen. You can't be a felon.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have a program with Kevin Jameson that does expungements because he understands a lot of African Americans have drug charges, federal drug charges. And Kevin, if you come and work through me and Kevin Jameson, he will help to get you expunged. There's a large segment of African Americans in our community cannot own firearms because of drug charges that was pressed on us back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I worked with Kevin, and Kevin said that anyone that approach our organization who want to get that lifted off of them, he will work with them.
Okay. Now, geography. You work in the greater Kansas City area. Someone from some other municipality might want to enjoy the training.
Awesome. We welcome anyone. We welcome law enforcement. We welcome sheriff department, ATF, FBI. We are law-abiding citizens. We are open. We are transparent. We are not trying to overthrow the government. We're not trying to do any anything. What we're doing is we're enjoying guns. That's all we're doing. We're doing long distance shooting. We're doing 3-gun competitions. We're doing pigeon. We're doing this. We're just having fun.
Yes, sir. And by the way, Brother Walker, I'm on the board, Crime Stoppers board. And I don't know if you know Kevin Bame and or Steve Cox or these folks with Crime Stoppers, but I think I mentioned to you that they mentioned in very complimentary terms what Brother Sanders is doing, Brother Walker.
Well, like I said, that I know listening to and the name of the organization, I'd like for you to repeat that again, and the name of your club, so that everybody gets not just the initials but the actual name. And the other thing is that you speak of the self-defense aspect. Do you work any with the hunters, with the people that like the long guns?
Oh, yes, sir.
That go out and hunt? I know people that are passionate gun owners, but they're talking about they're hunting deers. They use rifles, they use even bows and stuff, because they're sportsmen. I mean, when we talk about guns, a lot of times the first thing everybody goes to is a gun.
Yes, sir.
Is a handgun, is violence.
Sir.
But there's a lot of people that own weapons that use them for hunting, use them for recreation. And I mean, you can have sporting recreation, but I mean for hunting, the outdoors life, and that they have a lot of different weapons. I had a good friend of mine, we grew up in the city, not going hunting, anything like that, and he moved to Georgia. and talked to him years later, and he's got a collection of rifles now and stuff, and he loves it. I mean, that's what he does.
Oh yeah, that's me too. I love guns. I love collecting guns. You got bolt action, you got shotgun, you got AKs, you got ARs, you got blowback, 9mm pistol guns and stuff. I mean, guns are fun. When it comes down to it is, I deer hunt. I used to deer hunt with a guy named Mike King. I went deer hunting with him like maybe 4 or 5 times. I ended up getting a couple does and stuff, and I went to a processing plant and had them butchered up. And for a couple years, my family and I, we ate deer. It was delicious. I love deer chili, deer ground beef, and all that stuff. And we have guys in our organization like Tori. He's a big time hunter. He just loves hunting and stuff. He's a country boy, and he loves to hunt. Jeff also, I'm getting him into hunting and stuff like that. The whole aspect of guns are just so exciting. It's fun, especially you incorporate the safety aspect of it. You got to be safe, number one.
Yes, sir.
Safety is number one. And then after safety, you got to be educated. Then you got to do the training. You can't just go off and get a gun and go through a CCW class. One time, I tell all my students, when you go through this course with me, I need you to see you I take a pistol class, and you need to shoot at least once or twice a month to sharpen your skills, because if your skill setting stays the same for a long time, then guess what? You're going to end up, one of these days, you're going to end up hurting yourself.
Now, Brother Walker also asked to repeat again contact information and what the acronym stands for.
Okay. KC NAGA, and that's KCNAAGA.com, and my number is 816-935-3038. If you want to be trained properly, you want to understand firearms completely, you give me a call.
NAAGA stands for
National African American Gun Association.
National African American Gun Association across the nation. How many NAGA chapters are there?
It's 75, and we're growing. The newest numbers are 40,000. We was 30 for a long time, but the surge this year have gotten us up to 40,000, and we're continually growing. And the reason behind that is that for a long time, when I went to the range to go shoot, I was the only black guy there for a long time.
I'm sure.
And that I said, this ain't right, man. I mean, I hate that black people are so fearful of firearms, and they're believing what the media puts out there about us and firearms is so distorted. And I'm trying to reach back out and say, people, get you a firearm. Get trained properly.
Yes,
you know what? You have to understand this. Guns can be used to save your life.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to be a victim, especially black women. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to be the highest statistic when it relates to people who get murdered every day. You don't have to be that person. You can take responsibility for your safety.
And you mentioned participation and even offices held in the National African American Gun Association. During the training from age 21 up, how have you found the responses from those females to your training? Because we will stereotype the female and say, oh, they're so afraid of women. Oh, what do you find in your training for real?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I had this woman, she's 84 years old.
Watch out.
And she had never touched a handgun in her life. And she got 2 guns.
Uh-oh.
And she shoots on a regular basis, and she loves it. And she said, oh my God, all my life I've been fearful of firearms.
Yes, sir.
And this woman shoots so well. And then we had another woman, and she come from Sedalia, and her husband, I think he was in the military, and he was retired military. So she had never shot a gun in her life. And she is a natural marksman. I mean, this woman got groupings. She got quarter groupings in her target at 15 yards. And I'm like, and she loves it. And now she's working on her second and third gun. And it's like, we're opening up a world to African-American women, especially. Men have always tempered around guns somewhat, but women now, if you look at Instagram, you have so many black female instructors. It's a great feeling to see black women embracing firearms. This is my calling, and I want to reach out to young African American women to just get into firearms. You will love it,
Brother Walker.
Just want to take a couple of times from the web. We had a couple of people. One, Forrest Tyson had spoken that reparations for us are the trust funds that others have enjoyed. And the second thing was from Evangelist White, who said, I am a victim of gun violence, and the person was not pleaded guilty. I was shot in the back of the head 20 years ago, but God. Amen. So he just, I guess, his experience. So those were just a couple of things on the web.
Thank you so very, very much. And I am glad that people are hearing from Brother Eric Saunders, because it is such an important topic to remove that stereotypical stigma from gun ownership and participation.
You know, the sad thing about this, I'm sorry about that young man being a victim of gun violence. But I'm going to explain this to you. When they sell gun violence to you, you have to understand 66% of gun deaths is suicide. So when they tell you
66%,
66% is suicide. So when they tell you 79,000 Americans have died by guns, hear me out. 66% died, inflicted wounds, was shot by themselves. They shot themselves. So understand that. You got to stop fall into that narrative that the anti-gun people sell to us. Because the first thing they want to say is that, well, 79,000 people, but they don't tell you that over 600,000 people die every day in surgeries in hospitals. The highest number of people that dies are in hospitals getting surgeries done. So you have to realize that. So when you look at the 10 top killers of Americans, guess what? Gun violence is on the bottom. You have people who die from drunk drivers. That's up there. That's like 137,000 a year. And it keep climbing. So you don't hear people saying that, well, we're going to tighten down on drunk drivers, or we're going to tighten down on hospitals that people end up dying from surgery. You don't hear that. You hear the lowest number. Think about that. 79,000 people died by gun deaths, but 60% of them, 66% of them are suicides.
And by the way, quickly, from my perspective, I was indeed guilty of stereotyping the male and guns. But as far as National African American Gun Association is concerned, Eric Saunders would have us to know that your membership obviously has very responsible people. Talk about your male members as opposed to males outside of that.
We have federal agents, we have retired firemen, we have police officers, we have construction workers.
Yes, sir.
We have everybody from different geographic parts of the workforce, and they all love guns. We have people that works at Ford, GM. We have everybody from each different area in careers and stuff, and they just love guns. They respect guns. We have meetings every Wednesday. Our group meets and we discuss on how we're trying to get land. We're trying to purchase a building to put on there. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a fundraising committee so we can focus on trying to get the resources to where we can have our own land and our own building so we can sit here and expand also.
While we're there, is there a way for our listeners to contribute?
Yes, you can donate to kcnaaga.com, and we have a title there that says donations, and we take donations and stuff. Our goal is to reach $250,000, and we can pick up maybe 30 to 50 acres of land and put a building there so we can really enjoy firearms.
This is so good. Anything else, Brother Walker?
No, I guess with our time getting close,
Yes,
but we'll just have to have him back again. It's always a pleasure to have people that come in to talk both sides of the issue too. I mean, guns and those that are against guns, but we need to, as a community, to begin to talk about this, because for a long time you maybe just heard one side.
Exactly.
So it's always good to have both sides of a situation.
And when the program came on, it generally comes on with the disclaimer: the views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of KUAW.org. But thank you, Brother Eric Saunders, so very much for being here today.
Thank you, KUAW, for giving me the opportunity, give me this platform so we can allow the people in Kansas City to know that you have the first black gun club here, and we're here for our community. We're here to educate. We're here to train and apply that safety factor to handguns and just have fun.
God bless you. Gracious God and wonderful Wanda, I'm on my way home.